Hey, welcome to Dino Reacts. What we're going to get into right now is Black Reconstruction. We're always trying to get deeper into our history and learn more about what happened in the past so we do not repeat it in the future, and we give credence and praise to those that help us get to where we are today. So, as always, let's get after it. Let's get this going.
People don't realize that African Americans have always been a part of this nation's democracy. Black people always strongly desired the right to vote. They've always fought for being included in the political process. And then also, I think a lot of people might take for granted that African Americans always get to have that right because we had it before and we lost it. And so, presumably it could be lost again if people don't fight to protect it.
I question what that man just said right there. What's going to be lost again unless we protect it? Let's see what this video about. They already I'm triggered. Let's go.
When we learn about the Reconstruction Era in school, it's often taught as a dark period in American history, a time of upheaval and unrest right after the Civil War. But what often gets overlooked is that for a brief period of time, thousands of Black representatives were elected to office all over the South.
My estimate is that there were about 2,000 African American men who held public office during Reconstruction. Offices ranging from the Senate, there were 2 Black senators, 14 members of the House of Representatives, 600 or 700 members of state legislatures, and then dozens of other offices, state level, local level, etc.
So what was going on was that, first of all, a lot of the former Confederates, the most outspoken leaders of white supremacy, were not allowed to serve in Congress. And so, with those people absent, there were people that did believe that African Americans should be folded into the fabric of American civil and political life, and that did advocate for Black people to be able to vote. And then, of course, when African Americans were prevented from voting, federal troops or federal investigators would often be called in order to protect those African Americans' rights in order to cast a ballot.
At the time, many states in the South were either majority Black or close to it. And because of that, they were able to elect Black legislators, especially at the state level.
The most significant accomplishment of Black legislators in many Southern states during Reconstruction was the establishment of public school systems, not only for African Americans, but for white students as well. And even though these were segregated, they were often the first time that many African Americans, fresh out of slavery, had an opportunity to learn to read and write.
The highest level of office reached by these Black legislators was the U.S. Senate, and the first was Hiram Revels, a U.S. Senator from the state of Mississippi.
So Hiram Revels was a pretty unique individual in that he was educated, and he later became a civil rights champion, before the Civil War, certainly during the Civil War. And then afterward, he was sent to Mississippi, where he was appointed by the state legislature to be a United States Senator. In response to Black political power during Reconstruction, the South was just rife with violence in every single Southern state. And the most obvious early example of that violence was the Ku Klux Klan, which did all sorts of different things, but attacked everything from school teachers to politicians to farmers. And so these different waves of violence really popped up, especially during election days. And so in 1875 Mississippi, there was an organized overthrow, essentially, of the state Republican Party, which did include African Americans. There was violence at the polls in different cities, and that spread throughout the entire South. 1876, there was violence in different places like Florida and South Carolina and Louisiana that led to contested elections that ultimately paved the way for Reconstruction to end.
That overthrow was not put into law really until another generation, let's say around 1900, when Southern states figured out ways to abrogate the 15th Amendment, which had been enacted in Reconstruction to guarantee black men's suffrage.
So once the 15th Amendment became law, Southern states couldn't disfranchise African Americans simply by saying black people are no longer allowed to vote. And so in response to Reconstruction, in order to eliminate the black vote, they had to come up with new ideas in order to make sure African Americans were taken.
Now check this out. Yes, the Ku Klux Klan did try to stop a lot of black people from voting, but let's bear in mind that the Ku Klux Klan were Democrats. And let me just segue into how they're doing it right now. They're currently trying to take away the black vote by flooding this country with illegal immigrants. You know what I'm saying? And that they're trying to use this block of illegal immigrants, flooding them into mostly black-dominated areas so they can overset the black vote that's eventually about to go to the conservatives. Because I'm telling you right now, there is a silent majority of black people that are going to vote for Donald Trump and vote conservative this year. And they're going to do that because they see the Democrats once again coming here with their weasel ways to try to steal the black voice and the black vote. And let me tell you why that's important. Because the conservative black vote is the strongest, most intelligent, most competent vote you can possibly have. And they're trying to water that vote down by throwing the illegal immigrants and then giving them a right to vote without citizenship. Back then, it was violent. They did it through the Ku Klux Klan, the Democrats. Right now, it's they're weaseling it around and try to do it under amnesty. Be careful when you're dealing with Democrats. They just don't wear the hoods and sheets no more, but they are still there. And they all are in the Democratic Party. Just pay attention. Watch how we go forward as I'm gonna pluck the little trinkets out of this because I can already see where this video is going. I knew I was triggered at the beginning, but now I can see what they're doing. You can't fool me.
Off the voter rolls. And the most powerful of those methods was the literacy test, which allowed for local registrars in a county courthouse usually to look at a candidate and give the candidate a literacy test to see if they were qualified to register to vote. The nature of the test usually didn't matter. The person would just define whether they were qualified to vote based on whether they thought they were white or black.
And so you had a period, from 1900 to the 1965, the Voting Rights Act, where very few African Americans were allowed to vote throughout the entire South. For a long, long time, Reconstruction was portrayed by scholars, but also by the teachers and the general public as sort of the lowest point in American history, a period of corruption, misgovernment, and this idea that Reconstruction was a disaster was part of the legitimation of the old Jim Crow South. The underlying message was the South was correct in taking away the right to vote from black men, and that if blacks were given the right to vote again, you just have another replay of the horrors of Reconstruction.
Oh, you want to talk about how the Democrats took away the road to black men in the present day? That's called the child support system and the family court system. So what you do is you incentivize women to have families without children at home. Then you have the government garnish men's wages so they can't afford to live. So what do? Try to work more. Then you garnish that money. So now they're working 2 jobs, still not making enough to live. So what do? You turn to crime. I think that was all instituted. And then after all these men turn to crime to make a living, you now enact the biggest crime laws in the crime bill ever to put these men in jail for felonies and crimes. And those felonies in turn do what? Take away the black man's right to vote. Democratic policies. Never forget it. Those things happen. They're just happening today. You just got to see through the mess and understand that they just figured out a new way to take away the black man's vote. Then take away the black man as being head of the household. Same thing they did with butt breaking back in the day. And then you have a society full of what? We have a matriarchy completely not controlled by competent, strong Republican black men, that now all that's left in the hood is the guys that's willing to do what? Commit more crimes and perpetuate the cycle. Same thing still going on. But let's chop this down.
But I think one of the things in American history that we often teach is that there's a constant march toward things getting better. And it's a little bit tricky to teach Reconstruction because, African Americans during Reconstruction could vote in much of the South, and then things actually got a lot worse. And so it doesn't really fit into this narrative of constant progress throughout America since the Civil War. And so, in this day and age where we have numerous African American senators, just look at a place like Georgia where Raphael Warnock was elected. And, white Georgians are largely trying to respond through tactics like voter suppression to tamp down the black vote after the black vote.
Oh my God! I just knew it. I just knew this was gonna be one of those videos. Let's go in and attack voter suppression. There's no such thing as voter suppression. You need an ID to do everything in this world. Requiring an ID to vote is not hard. Traveling to vote is not hard. Don't even say none of those. That is straight legitimate. That's straight illegitimate. Sorry. Oh my God, here they go, perpetuating this narrative all over again and trying to use the Reconstruction to make it sound great. Not happening over here. Let's go.
Actually sent this African American man to the United States Senate.
After the 2020 elections, we saw historical voters of color turn out and a lot of first-time voters, even during a global pandemic. And after that, we saw Republican-controlled legislatures across the country drop hundreds of anti-voting bills. And so when we saw that collective activity...
What's an anti-voting bill? You're saying this is all loads of BS. What is an anti-voting bill? And let me tell you, black turnout was a big manipulation in 2020. George Floyd. The abortions. The summer of 2020. The summer of love. That turnout was all manipulated by the Democratic Party emotionally to get a turnout for Joe Biden illegitimately. He was a fake president put in, and then they're using all these scare tactics, which I get so tired. They don't understand. This is what made me conservative. You can't blatantly lie to my face like this, and they continually still doing it, and they try to blame it on the Republicans. No, the Republicans want fair elections, and they want to make sure American citizens can vote in each one of the elections. The Democrats keep saying it's about voter suppression because they want illegals to vote. And since we're suppressing illegal immigrants from voting, they call that voter suppression, but try to say they're taking away the vote from black people. It's a scam and it's a game. People got to understand that. When they talk about voter suppression, it's because we're stopping illegals from voting. But they don't want to say that out loud because then the independents and the conservative Democrats of their party would what I'm looking for. They would see through their ruse. Just like right now with Biden in office. It took a debate, Biden looking like a potato head on stage, like an old man going through dementia, for the actual independent and conservative Democrats to now be like, oh my God, we got to get Biden out. Trump's going to win. We've known that since the beginning. But then they still can't see through the fact that the Democrats are playing games with them. They're still running the Ku Klux Klan on their mind. They're just doing it on the mind instead of on the body, which is even worse. Because now we got a whole bunch of people that will vote for a potato head, not understanding that Donald Trump is here to protect us in this country and the voter right laws. Oh, let's go.
Happening, we had to go to the federal government and ask for protections.
Hillary Hawley works for Fair Fight Action, an organization working to fight voter suppression around the country. Though literacy tests remain a thing of the past, many states have enacted laws that purge voter rolls.
They trying to tie an illiteracy test to voter suppression today. Look how they just keep this emotional stuff going. It's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking.
In ways that target minorities, or have made voting more difficult by closing polling places in largely black areas. Fair Fight is now working to get legislation such as the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed in Congress to stop these tactics.
So
they keep saying the tactics. What tactics? There's only one tactic. The Republican just put a bill up right now. I forgot it was I forgot his name. I just watched it this morning. And the only bill was, we want to make sure that only citizens can vote in this coming election. Every single Democrat in unison voted against the bill. What does that tell you? And then people can't see through that. Like, oh, you're trying to keep black people from voting. No, we're trying to keep illegal immigrants from voting. And every Democrat voted against it. You can go look it up. Why is that? Because these are all lies. Tactics, my behind.
We started working with Congress basically right out the gate in January 2021 to help ensure that the legislation was drafted in a way that could actually mitigate voter suppression and combat the real attacks that we're seeing in real time.
Even though today's laws might be a bit different, they're intended with the same, outcome in mind, to make it harder for Black people to vote, to make sure that African Americans don't have equal standing of one man, one vote.
These are blatant lies. Blatant lies. How are they getting behind these lies? I don't understand. I'm truly confused, like how any common sense American can hear this talk and not go do the research to understand how nobody's being stopped from voting. If you're an American citizen, you can vote pretty easily. We have mail-in voting. There's polling places everywhere, except they're closing polling places. If that polling places look like they're letting illegals vote, I'd close that place too. But they don't want to have that conversation because that's the intention. You put a voting place in a Black neighborhood, which is where all the illegal immigrants live. Duh. And then you have some type of management going like, oh, these people are letting illegals vote. So you close the polling places, and then these cuckoo heads come out talking about, oh, they're trying to stop blacks from voting. Come on. We can see right through that. This is BS.
In the democracy, in order to ensure more white control over our political systems. I think it's important to learn about Reconstruction in American history because that was a moment, I think, where our democracy held the most promise for every single person, at least every single man.
You see how they keep trying to... First they say that we going back to Reconstruction where that held the most promise of voting. And then they say we go back there, that was the most racist period in time. This is called emotional confusion. And they keep you there. And then they try to compare it to today where we are the most freest in the world. I have never met any black man that is a conservative that has never complained about voting. Actually, I've never met a black person that complained about voting. They're just mostly in the media. It's like our supposed elected officials. They're the only ones complaining. And the people that perpetuate the lie. I'm telling you, man, they're all paid actors. Because this is BS. Complete BS. Woosah. I must stay calm so I can break through these lies and get out there and make sure everybody knows that this is the best and freest country in the history of the world, and stop listening to people like this professor and that woman that was up there that's perpetuating the lies that there's voter suppression. Only if you're an illegal. And you should have your vote suppressed because you're not a citizen. And that's even... Blacks should be fighting against illegals voting and taking away their rights to vote.
In the history of the United States of America, regardless of race. And I think that if we are to ever really fulfill that promise, then people need to understand the history of voting rights and voting right loss.
We do.
In the Reconstruction era.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. Man. Now check this out. We got to stop letting these people use prominent times in the past where we were building up our right to vote to compare it to the voter suppression that they say is happening currently today, because it's not. Black people can vote as much as they want to. Well, we are stopping these illegals voting. People that have not put in the time and tax money to be able to vote. And them using Reconstruction to say that Republicans are using the same tactics from Reconstruction to voter suppress today is BS. Republicans have always had our backs, have always been on the top of civil rights, and fought an entire war for us. And we're going to sit there and let these people completely throw it down your head because these are people that are paid off. I know I'm rumming a little bit, but I'm a little frustrated and I'm tired. I am extremely tired of these paid off Democratic charlatans trying to tell us that Republicans don't have our back when they are the people that have the back of Americans. They're trying to separate blacks from Americans. Black history is American history. The Reconstruction is a part of our history, and we did great things in this country, and we've gotten all the rights we've wanted. Now we just got to get these Democrats off our backs. They've been on our backs since the Ku Klux Klan, and they staying on our backs now, and they keep hiring these HNs to come in here and lie to your face and get you emotionally charged up about things that are not happening. Not happening at all. And it's pitiful, actually. We need to understand where we've come as a race and as a people and as a country and do better and stop getting emotionally attached to these people that do not have your best interests in mind because they're continually getting paid off by the same Democratic Party that was beating you before and now beating your mind today. Get off the plantation. These people, they should be ashamed of themselves out there perpetuating lives talking about tactics. What tactics? You need your ID to drive, drink, buy a gun, move around. Only criminals can do those things without an ID. And are they saying all blacks are criminals? Huh? That is not the case. Using Reconstruction to push these lies. Listen, I'm on this journey for American history, and they trying to teach me bullshit ass history. Ooh, I'm sorry. I've been trying not to curse. But they are. And we got to stop them from that. So I'm going to do my part and not let this stuff fly. I'm studying history, getting more better entrenched with how I got all the freedoms I got today, and then I got to hear people do this. Send more videos my way. We're going to start debunking from the ground level. People don't know what they talking about. Man, don't worry about it. We doing this. Black conservatives, we up. Welcome to another Dino Reacts. If you like my content, like, comment, or subscribe. And as always, chef's kiss.